going on, guys? Hope you're having a good day. As always, today's video is going to focus on a car loan product that some of you guys may already know something about, and others, I would assume the majority, probably do not. And that is something called gap insurance. And the way I want to tackle this is just kind of ask what I think are the important questions that you guys should ask about the product and really let you determine whether it is something that you should get or you shouldn't get. Alright, so question number one, what is gap coverage? Now, when you get a car loan, and only when you get a car loan, if you buy a car in cash, you will never be asked to purchase gap insurance. Gap insurance is essentially additional coverage that protects you if you are in an accident, right? And the insurance company, the check that they give you for your vehicle if they happen to total the car out, is not enough to pay off the loan. Now, I hope that makes sense, and I'll try and simplify that a little bit. Let's say you get a car loan for $10,000, right? Unfortunately, maybe a year later, you are involved in a major accident and the insurance company totals your car. They're going to give you a check for that vehicle, right? They're going to, tell you this is what your car's worth, therefore here's a check. There you go, that's for your vehicle. Well, what if you still owe like $9,000 on that car and the check is only for $7,000? You still owe $2,000 because your loan's for $9,000 and that $7,000 check is not going to be enough to cover that car loan, right? So what would happen, right? If you don't have gap coverage, well, you are not going to be able to be done with that loan right away. You and the bank are going to have to come to some sort of agreement on that remaining $2,000. Now, if you have gap coverage or gap insurance, you don't have to worry about it because the lender is saying, oh, don't worry, we will cover that gap, that remaining dollar amount. If you're involved in an accident, the insurance company can't pay for everything, we will cover the gap. So that's what it is. It really is just extra protection. Overall, I think it's a beneficial product for some people, but again, let's keep talking about a few more aspects to it because not everyone should get it. Alright, question number two is going to be, how much does gap cost? Okay, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to be able to provide you a whole lot of answers here because every institution is different. Okay, at my credit union, I think when I started out working there, it was like $279. Did not matter if I was buying some F-150 truck, if I was buying a Hyundai Elantra or a Mercedes, it was $279 no matter what. Now over time, I think that price increased to where now it's $350. But every financial institution is going to be different. Some company may charge less, some company may charge more. You can also purchase gap coverage through the dealership, and they tend to be really expensive with their gap coverage. I've seen some dealerships charge like $600 or more. So, pay attention if you are going to get gap coverage when it comes to price, because if they're offering you some ridiculous dollar amount, just walk away because it's not worth it. And especially if you're going to be financing the loan through like a financial institution rather than the dealership, they will more than likely have better gap prices, so more than likely you'll want to stay away from getting gap coverage through the dealership. Now, another thing about the dollar amount is a lot of people will ask, do I need to pay for it up front? How do I pay for this gap coverage? Most institutions, both the dealership, banks, credit unions, they will say you've got two choices. You can either pay it up front or we can just roll it into the loan amount. So if you really do want to have gap coverage, but for whatever reason you think I don't want to pay $300 or whatever that dollar amount is, most of the time you can roll it into the loan itself. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, I'm just letting you know that's kind of how it works. Alright, question number three, who should get gap coverage? Right? Not everyone should get it, but how do you determine whether you should or not? And it's really pretty simple. What it really comes down to is, did you overpay for your vehicle, or is your loan upside down? Because if so, you really should consider getting gap coverage. You know, I made another video a little while back that was talking about your loan to value ratio and what that is, and I'll have a link up above that will talk about that in case you don't know what your loan to value ratio is. But it's essentially, you know, how much is your loan for your car compared to how much it's actually worth. Right? And if you owe more than your car's actually worth, well, then you're in a good position to benefit from gap coverage. Because if you are involved in an accident, more than likely the insurance company is not going to be able to pay off the full loan amount because you've overpaid, right? You have a larger loan than what your car is worth. So these are the type of people that would benefit from having gap insurance because they are, I want to say, just at a little bit higher level of risk exposure due to their high loan to value ratio. So I think those are the people that would benefit from getting it. Now, I will say here real quick, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're doing this just when you buy a car. You know, when you refinance a car, you're going to be offered gap coverage again, mainly when you refinance through another institution. You know, I had another video that talked about using your car loan value to pay off some other higher rate debt. And again, if you don't know about that video, I'll also link it above. But you know, in all of these situations, it doesn't matter if I'm buying, if I'm refinancing, if I'm doing a cash out refinance, you know, all of these situations could involve the loan becoming higher than what the car's worth. So those are all the times that you should look into getting gap coverage. All right, question number 4, who should not get gap coverage? Now this one's pretty simple. You know, if I just said that the people that should get gap coverage is for the people that owe more than what the car is actually worth, well then the opposite is true for the people that should not get it, right? If you owe $10,000 on a vehicle that's worth $20,000, well then you more than likely don't need gap, because if you are involved in an accident and the car's worth about $20,000, the insurance company is clearly going to give you a check that should easily pay off your $10,000 car loan and you'll still have money left over. So if you have equity in your vehicle, if you owe less than what the car is worth, then no, there's really no point in getting gap insurance because it wouldn't do you any good anyway. You already are in a position to where you have equity. Another person that should not get gap coverage, or at least not right away, is, you know, some people will try and haggle with the dealership to get the best deal possible on a car loan or a car purchase. And so what they'll do is say, hey, you know, dealership, I will finance with you guys. I don't care what the interest rate is. I just want you to bring the price of the car as low as possible, right? And they're doing this because they know that they're going to refinance that car maybe in the next week or two, right? So if they know that they're going to be taking this car loan to another institution here in a few weeks by refinancing it, they shouldn't purchase gap twice, right? You don't want to purchase gap through a dealership, then refinance it, then have to pay gap all over, because when you refinance it, it's a whole new loan, right? That gap coverage that you may have purchased, you know, 2 years ago does not carry over when you refinance. So that's another thing. I'm not going to address that as a question, but just it's a good to know aspect of gap coverage, and that is when you refinance, you kind of lose your gap coverage because a refinance, it makes it a new loan. So those are the people that do not need to worry about gap coverage. The people that have equity, or they're purchasing a car from a dealership knowing full well that they're going to be refinancing it shortly because you don't want to pay for gap coverage twice. Now the last question, and it's not a huge deal, is can I cancel my gap coverage? This is going to be, again, different from every institution. I can only tell you what my credit union had done, and that is, you know, you can cancel it within 60 days. So if you just got a car loan through a dealership and that gap coverage is really, really high, you may want to cancel it. Or if you bought a car through a dealership and you know that you're going to refinance it here pretty soon, you may want to cancel it, or at least see if you can cancel it, because I would assume most institutions and dealerships as well should have some sort of like window that you can opt out of it or cancel it and get a refund. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, guys. Gap coverage, it's really simple stuff, but at the end of the day, it's important to know about this stuff because in all honesty, a lot of banks and all the car dealerships, even if you don't need it, is probably going to try and sell you on this stuff, saying that you do. So educate yourself, come prepared, understand that, you know, they're looking to make as much money as possible, and don't let that come off of you. So comment below if you did purchase gap coverage and, you know, maybe you got a really good price on it, or you purchased gap coverage and unfortunately you were involved in an accident, you know, and it helped you out. You know, share your stories about what your experiences were so we can better our community. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.
Hey guys, thanks again for watching this video. I hope you learned something new from it and you were able to strengthen your financial position. I'm going to keep coming out with more videos, so please stay tuned, but go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, and have a good day.